Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we've got, as you guessed, another upgrade video because we've been getting in a lot of speakers lately to be upgraded, and we've been getting in speakers that are from all over the place. We've had vintage speakers in, we've had speakers that were total disasters and huge messes and resonance issues and frequency response all over the place, and vintage stuff that we couldn't even do much with. And then we've had some really good ones lately. The Heiko, for instance, was really good. The MoFi 8 that we just worked on was beautifully engineered and designed. It measured fantastically. And we've had quite a few Polks this year, and a lot of the newer ones have measured really well. This is one of those. This is the Polk Legend L200, I believe is what this one is. And it is fairly well designed. I mean, fairly well made. The box looks nice. The drivers are good drivers. I like the material that this is made of. It was a stamped steel frame. It is a braced box. It does have nice looking binding posts on the back of it, but it did have steel nuts on the other side of it. It's got a wacky port design that they've used before on models where they've got a spike shaped point right into the port, and then it flares out into this plastic piece so that you could back the speaker up next to a wall and it wouldn't just directly reflect off the wall. It's kind of dispersing. That ain't even a word, is it? It's dispersion of the output of the port is being radiated in other areas there to kind of lessen the effect of it just reflecting right off of the wall. It's got some little rubber feet on it too, so it's not wanting to slide around on my little tablecloth very well. So, like I said, well designed, measures really well. Now, things we can gather from this, because people are sending this in to us for a reason. It has a specific sound, and they want it to have high resolution, better detail, better imaging, tighter bass, better vocals. There's a whole slew of reasons why people send things like this in. And just because it measures well doesn't mean that it sounds well. And I have people saying that all the time. You're just trying to make everything a flat response. That doesn't mean it sounds good. And you're correct. The flat response means it's accurate. And let's take a look at the frequency response on this thing. As you can see, pretty flat line. Smooth all the way across. And it has a really nice grill. We've already slid it back into plastic. It's held on magnetically, so it just sets in place. And with the grill on, there is a little bit of a dipped area up top, but overall not bad. Looking at the horizontal off-axis, it drops off relatively smooth in every direction. And the vertical off-axis, as you go up, the drivers stay in phase over a pretty good range also. Something to keep in mind, and you need to watch this with almost all the Polk line, is they do have low impedances. This is a 4 ohm speaker. If we look at the impedance curve down at the lowest range down there at the dipped area there on the woofer end, it dips to 4.3 ohms, and at the tweeter end it dips to 3.6 ohms. So keep that in mind. If you're wanting to put a bunch of these on a home theater receiver and you're ganging them up on there, your receiver may not like those impedance loads. So definitely something to be mindful of. Now let's look at the spectral decay. This is where we really learn a lot of information. And the spectral decay is pretty clean, all except for a little bit of energy down there at the low frequency. And you notice how it tends to drop off pretty cleanly, and then almost out of the blue, here comes a couple of other little spots there, like a secondary internal reflection, and here they come and stretch out there a little bit. That could be some energy reflecting around into the box, and it's re-exciting the woofer, causing that to show up. And it could also have to do something with the way this port is. We've looked at these before and stuffed a little bit of really light fill in the port, and it may help some of that as well. You can go into this box and add some more insulation or more polyfill or something in there, and it may do away with some of that. So that's possibly fixable. Now, let's look at the rest of the guts of this thing. You can see these foam-covered cables here are what connected everything with these little push-on connectors. Those are awful. And the parts quality used in this thing is super cheesy. Yep, there's a couple polypropylene caps, some polyester film caps. All of the inductors except for this little one on the tweeter circuit is all iron core inductors. They're sandcast resistors. I mean, they're mostly the cheapest stuff that you can put into a crossover, and it also, those cheaper parts are really small, and they can pack them in there and mount it all inside of it fairly easily. When we replicate this with high quality parts, it's going to be a little bit of a stretch getting it all to fit in there and getting it fitting within the area that you have in the bottom of the cabinet, but it is very doable. Now, like I mentioned earlier, just because it has a flat frequency response doesn't mean it sounds good. It means it's accurate. And we always want a speaker to be accurate. If the frequency response is all over the place, we're hearing some things louder than other things, and it's like somebody took your EQ and just jacked it all up. And we see speakers like that all the time. And it doesn't sound natural when you do that. Things can be dropped out of the sound stage. Things are too bright in some areas. Things are pushed forward in the sound stage that are too loud, and pushed back that are not loud enough, and it can be a mess just from the frequency response standpoint. We also see issues where there's things that are just not in phase, so we have to go in and correct things that are in phase. When they're not in phase, they don't sound right. They sound disjointed. This speaker, the phase relationship of the drivers is great. Like I said, the measurements are a measurement of accuracy. And there's specific things in the measurements that tell us what we could expect when we listen to the speaker. If there's something wrong that show up in the measurements, sometimes those audible, those things that are wrong are audible. Especially when we look at the spectral decay and we see long trails of energy there, and we see ringing going on and things like that. We can look at that graph and know that that's going to be an audible problem. We don't have to then listen to it to figure out, is that audible or is it not audible? We already determined that a lot of excessive ringing is going to be very audible. And when we upgrade something from cheesy parts like this to really high quality parts, we reduce a lot of the smearing, and we're putting in parts that discharge much faster and cleaner. We know we're going to get better resolution. We know we're going to get better detail. We know it's going to affect the imaging. We know things are going to be more layered in the soundstage in the way that they're supposed to be, because all the spatial cues are not disrupted. So we don't have to do an A-B comparison every time we do an upgrade on something. We've done those A-B comparisons a lot, and we already know what happens when we substitute one type of part for another type of part. In this case, they designed this speaker very well. And if you're just using it for home theater and you don't really care, you just want to hear the different noises and sounds that are going on within the movie and whatnot, and that's your concern, these speakers may be a great choice for you. If you're really into music and you want to hear things very realistically and portrayed in a way that it was recorded, this speaker may be very accurate in a lot of ways, but this is going to smear the signal quite a bit. This is not a high-end speaker, but it can be taken up several levels with upgrades. And so a lot of people send these things in to get us to look at it and figure out what can we do to take them to another level. This is a good candidate. This is one of those that I consider having good bones. There's something there to work with. It's got good drivers. It measures really well. I didn't have to redesign anything. So when you get the upgrade for this thing, nothing about the frequency response is going to change. It's the balance of it. Everything is going to be still the same. We're just looking at improvements in the bass response, because the cabinet's going to be better damped, because we're going to add some more sheets of no-res in there to help control the cabinet resonances. The lower vocal is going to be cleaner because of that. The entire vocal region is going to be cleaner because we're getting iron core inductors out of the signal path. All the upper ranges and harmonics are going to all be faster and cleaner, because we're going to step up to higher quality capacitors that are going to discharge faster. They're not going to hold a signal and then release it moments later in kind of a smeared effect. So we know what's going to happen when we offer this stuff. We know that when we swap out this level of wiring and these push-on connectors for some really high purity copper that's not coated in PVC, and we don't use push-on connectors, we actually just solder the wire right to the drivers, we know there's going to be an improvement in clarity, because we've done that a whole bunch of times. Same way with the binding posts on the back. The binding posts are fairly cheesy, but they look nice. But those steel nuts on the other side, they cause a disruption to the signal. They always do. And when we substitute some of that stuff for a tube connector, which is just a pure copper tube, it improves signal transfer, and it doesn't blur the signal. It improves clarity across the board. We don't have to A/B it to figure it out. Does it do it every single time? Because we've done it a whole lot of times, and it does it every single time. So we have very good confidence in when we put a little package together for you guys, that you can go and put it together then and put it in the speaker, and we know exactly what the result's going to be. And our customers are really happy with the results, and they post about it all the time on the forums, and we keep getting more and more speakers sent in because of it. And again, we don't even charge anything to do this. We'll go in and measure all this stuff, and we actually map out the whole crossover and just provide you with the parts. We do it as a service for our customers, and we want to help other people that may have this same speaker get into this as a DIY project and have fun with it and realize how much more performance there was left in their speakers. And maybe that customer will come back to us later and purchase some of our own designs. So it's something we do for fun. And I know sometimes it seems like I'm a little rough on some of these speakers that come in when they're really a mess. But I'm just going to be honest and tell the truth every time. When it's a mess, I'm going to say it's a mess. And when it's designed really well, I'm going to say that it's designed really well. And Polk has done a really good job with this. And at the price point that they've trying to target with this, they're very competitive with everything else out there, because everything else in these price ranges have this same level of cheesy crap inside. But when you've got something well engineered and you've got good drivers to work with and a nice cabinet, why not spend $200 or $300, even $300 or $400, and put some really high-end parts in there and take this to a really high level and have some fun with it? Absolutely. So that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a fun one to kind of dig into, and I enjoy seeing speakers come in every now and then that are really well done. And Polk's, they do a good job. They no surprises on this one. And so, yeah, you guys have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video.